HarperCollins presents The Café at Beach End by RaeAnne Thayne, read by Vanessa Johansson. To my sisters-in-law, Carla, Melanie, Amanda, Tasha, Rose, and Sherry, I consider each of you a sister of my heart. 1. Meredith. The sky wept the day Meredith Rowland returned to Cape Sanctuary. As the charming Northern California town came into view, she did her best to peer through the heavily beating wipers of her car, fighting a losing battle against sheets of rain. Of course it was raining. It seemed only right, especially considering the dark, sinister cloud that had been following her for the past 18 months. As her tires splattered up rain from the wet road, Meredith checked the gas gauge of the 10-year-old compact car she had purchased with the last of her savings after her beloved Mercedes was sold at auction. The gauge read below the empty line, but she kept her fingers crossed that she could make it to the cafe before it ran out of gas. The car sputtered a little. "Come on, Posy," she said, using the nickname she had given it somewhere in Nebraska, not for a sweet-smelling floral arrangement, but because the first 3 letters of POS made a particularly pungent acronym that described the car's general quality. The engine chugged, and Meredith held her breath. "You've made it this far. Come on. Only another few miles to go. We're almost there, baby. You've got this." Though she knew it was irrational, even delusional, she thought the car seemed to pick up a little energy, like an old horse that smelled the familiar stable of home. A moment later, Meredith chugged on to Main Street on fumes and prayer. Miraculously, she found a parking space not far from the historic brick building that housed the Beach End Café. As she gazed at the building, with its cupola and planters spilling over with red and purple flowers, a flood of memories washed over her. Most of them were good, but a few made her throat ache and her eyes burn. She had adored this place once upon a time. During her childhood, the cafe had been her happy place. Whenever she had been feeling lonely or sad or frightened, she would come here in her mind. Here she had found love and acceptance. Her grandmother hadn't cared if she had a B in French literature, or if she couldn't remember how to conjugate to plunder. Frances and Tori had loved her just as she was. If she closed her eyes, she could still picture herself and her cousin as they had been back then. One blonde and fair, the other dark, but with the same hazel eyes they had inherited from Frances through their respective parents. They had been as close as sisters, closer even, sharing laughter and dreams and secrets during those halcyon summer months when Meredith would stay with her grandmother. She could picture them now in a time-lapse age progression that played across her mind. They were young girls, stopping at the candy store down the street to fill their pockets with sweets purchased using Meredith's spending money. Then pre-teens, riding cruiser bikes through town and giggling at all the cute boys hanging out at the skate park at Driftwood Beach. Then teenagers, sitting around a bonfire and talking and laughing with those same cute boys, while stars glittered overhead and the sea murmured its endless song. Had that really been her? The memories seemed vague and undefined, hazy and not quite real, as if it had all happened to someone else. Probably because it had. Meredith was a different person than that lonely girl yearning for affection. She once had a nanny who used to tell her that all the cells in her body replaced themselves every 3 months, so she really did become a new person, like a snake shedding its skin. She had learned as an adult that wasn't wholly true, that some cells regenerated every few days, others had much longer lifespans into the decades, and others never regenerated. Still, so many moments in her life had that ethereal, distant feeling, as if they had happened to someone else. Certainly, the past 18 months seemed a nightmare from which she couldn't quite wake up. All of those things had happened to her, though. She couldn't wish away her history. She tightened her fingers around the steering wheel as she finished parking and turned off the engine. Like it or not, she owned it and would have to figure out now how to take the broken pieces of that history and rebuild herself into something better. Reaching beside her for her umbrella, Meredith climbed out of the car and extended it, every muscle in her body aching from the long
Sample complete. Ready to continue?